It's time for another edition of the Online Dinner Party. Looking forward to some great conversation with some amazing guests. And yes, I've got guests in the house that'll be here for the Online Dinner Party and looking forward to seeing what they've got to say. I know that we're having some very fall like weather here in Durham, North Carolina. And I, for one, am glad about that, even though I was born in the summer month of July. I do love that fall temperatures and that fall weather and all along those lines. So it's good to be stepping outside and feeling that cool breeze. I think we're probably around like the 70s or something like that. So it is definitely not bad. And in the evening time, it might even be around the 50s and the 40s. Not looking forward all that much to the colder winter weather, but hey, it could be worse. I could be in either New England or be in place that I used to live at way back when I was in college, that being Milwaukee and all in that space. So I could have been doing that because it definitely got real cold when I was there when the early 80s, particularly there in Milwaukee. But definitely, I love the weather for the most part that we have here in North Carolina, even though some people are not fans of our humidity or our hot part of the weather as well. So some people like it, some people don't. I know that there are times that I go to a summer festival that I am part of and do the MCing for regularly, and that's right around the 4th of July weekend. And I can tell you that there have been times it's been real mild, but there's also times that it has been blisteringly hot and also very much humid. So that is something that folks don't like about our particular weather here at times. But right now, I'm enjoying what we've got going on and enjoying what is happening in that space. As I was telling one of my guests earlier, I'm just glad that I've got a win in fantasy football because my brother got me into this years ago and he got me into playing, and I was 0-1 because I drafted Aaron Rodgers. And then, as I was telling him, I turned around and drafted the New England quarterback who was giving me like negative points. I did not start him this week, even though it would have been smart to start him because he would have given me more points than the starting quarterback. But thanks to defense, I did manage to pull out a win and a win against our commissioner. So that means that I will be 1-6 instead of 0-7 and 0 and whatever, because I was not trying to have a season where I was not winning anything. And like I was telling this particular guest, and I'm going to bring him on since he's definitely in the business coaching lane, and we've got some other folks that will be joining us as well, that I'd rather have a victory, and maybe I can build on it. I think we got 13 games, so maybe if I run the table, I can be 7-6 and a contender. Don't know that that's going to happen, even though I've got some good players, but I can dream on, just like I can dream on about getting married at some point or another as well, since I'm 61 and have not found that significant other. But that doesn't mean that we can't keep hope alive. So we can keep hope alive and maybe still have that happen in our life and all along those lines. So definitely it could happen. Don't know about the child thing at 61. I might just have to be stuck with my two nephews and all in that space as at 61. Don't know if you want to be having the run of kids and taking kids to high school or to high school games when you're like 75 or 80. So unless I'm going to be getting with a younger woman, that might not be all that strong of a possibility. But I'll come on and bring on some of our other guests and see what they've got to say about stuff. And the first one I'm bringing on is G. Scott Graham, who is in the business coaching lane. And like I said, I'm just so glad that I was able to get to that first win because I was very much worried about that and all along those lines. And I don't know that I'm going to go 7-6, but at least even if I go 1-13, as I told you, I beat the commissioner of our league, and that is my one victory. Now, this week I'm playing my brother, so I would like to have some bragging rights on that one also. So if I can beat my brother, that would be a good thing also. But we'll find out what happens if I've got to draft other players and other things that might be going on in that lane. But definitely, as you know, on this show, I love to have my guests share a little bit about who they are, what they're all about, and all in that space. So if you will kindly do that, I know that you're in the business coaching lanes, and I've got some other folks that will be joining us as well, including one that is in the religious space, but it's also been a coach. I can't wait to hear what they've got to say because they've had some winless seasons and they've had some success on their seasons as well. So I'll bringing him up later on. But definitely, if you can share a little bit about your own life and what you've got going on in that business coaching lane, because as I was joking with you earlier, you're like Isaac Asimov for business writers because you read like 14, 15 books. And whenever I think of prolific writers, I think of that great science fiction writer, Isaac Asimov, and there are other prolific writers as well. But he was definitely very prolific. And, I think you said you've written like 13, 14, maybe even 15 books. Like that's like almost a book a year. So he's doing very well in that space.
Well, thank you, Mark. It's nice to be here on your dinner show. As you were talking, all I could think of was that guy needs a dog. That's what you need. You need a dog. They're a lot easier than kids. I can tell you that. Dogs are much easier than kids.
You know, now that you say that, I can definitely believe that. They're a lot easier than kids. There was a time I had a neighbor upstairs in this particular apartment complex that I live in, and they had a cat and a dog. The dog used to go regularly with them wherever they were going. The cat wasn't all that much of a travel cat. So I wound up doing the cat sitting and enjoyed the cat sitting before the young couple moved away. And I think that they are maybe even engaged and thinking about getting married themselves. But when they had that cat, you can't tell now because I got new blinds and the blinds aren't even shown right now in terms of the way the camera is positioned. But when I had that cat, the cat tore apart the blind, so that wasn't all that friendly. So the cat was like, he's going to work, because I told you I'm going to work later on, and the cat was like, well, since he's going to work, it's playtime, and this is playhouse. And so they made my blinds their personal toy.
Nice.
Definitely.
Well, as you know,
share a little bit about your business background.
Yeah, I've been working as a business coach exclusively. I mean, I have a number of things I do because I have a vast array of skills and interests, but I've been working exclusively on my own as a coach since 2006, which is significant, I think, because a lot of folks in the coaching field do it as a side hustle to their main job, or they do it as a side hustle because they can't make it work, or any number of pieces. But I've been doing it as 2006, not working for anybody else, self-employed since then, and started off because it was an opportunity for me to take my clinical work. My background is in counseling and therapy. I'm a rostered psychotherapist and a licensed substance abuse counselor. I take that stuff mixed with a graduate degree in business, mixed it all together to do business coaching, because ultimately, you know, people don't start their business, Mark, to have a successful business and end up fat, drunk, divorced, depressed, and alone. That's just not the way it works. People want a successful business and they want all those other things too. But so often you find somebody who comes to, you know, coaching and they're focused on growing their business, and then after a while you discover some other train wrecks in their life that need some adjusting and tinkering too. So I address all of those pieces because I have all those skills that I bring to the foray of what I do with clients. So much different than other coaches. Also, I don't do a prescribed, 10-week explore your business and grow your career type thing, or these are the 5 things you need to do on week 1, and then you do this on week 2 and week 3. It's very much what I call a concierge style of coaching. So some coaches, I tell folks, I just talked to a guy last week. I said, if you want to work with me, we will figure it out. And if it means we need to talk twice a week for 20 minutes on a Monday and 20 minutes on a Friday and 5 minutes on a Saturday, that's good with me. Or we talk every 10 days for 45 minutes, that's good with me. And I'm there to help somebody be successful as they need it. And so that's the kind of package I offer that flexes over time with folks based on the needs that they bring to the coaching process with me.
You brought up a couple of questions that I was curious about, and I've actually brought it up on this show and other shows as well. And I'll go and maybe ask 2 of them separately and everything. But one thing is, I am oftentimes shocked, and I don't know if you are as shocked because you are a business coach, at the amount of people that don't have a business plan. I know that there was a friend of mine that was on Sri Srinivasan's show, and he was talking about how people will oftentimes want him to invest in this business project or that business project. And of course, as an investor, the first thing he's asking for is a business plan. And he said quite often they had no business plan or didn't have an idea of where the direction of the business was going to be. So I'm thinking that this has got to be a major problem in our business community, is folks having maybe a vision, but not having a plan for the vision.
Absolutely. And the only thing worse than not having a business plan is I've had folks and I've said, you've got a business plan? Oh, yes, I have a business plan. And I'm like, can I see it? And then they're like, I don't know. I haven't looked at it in years. I don't know where it is. Right. So they put together a business plan because they think it is a way to get a loan or a way to get with a small business grant or some other piece that says you need to have a business plan, and they have their business plan, they put it together, they're totally detached from it. Maybe it's realistic, maybe it's not. They never look at it, they put it away, it collects dust, that's it. That's not the way to do a business
Right.
plan.
No, I
It's
agree.
not the
And
way
the
to do it at all.
other thing that goes on in that lane as well is I know that I mentioned earlier that later on in about an hour and a half or something like that, I'll be running off to the Cultural Arts Center. And one of the things that our boss has been making sure that we all understand is the mission of the organization. And our mission has a number of components. One of that is knowing that we are keepers of some of the history of the African American community here in Durham, but also understanding that, but also providing some other cultural lenses and cultural performances that are there, because it is a converted church. So we also need to understand our historical aspect of where we are in the sense of being part of a Black Wall Street. So I do know that I just got an email recently from my boss. There was a copy of our mission statement, and I kind of alluded to part of it without all of it and everything. But definitely, I think a number of people, if you asked them their mission plan or what the mission plan of their business, they probably couldn't tell you. And I was just glad that that is something that this particular boss, and she's been a boss now for a few years and everything, is wanting to make sure that we are all on the same page. So do you think that that's something that is important, whether it is a nonprofit, because the Cultural Arts Center is a nonprofit, or a profit organization? Because I'm thinking even profit organizations need to know why they're selling the widgets that they're selling, or selling the drinks that they're selling, or whatever else they might be selling. But I'd love to hear your thoughts around that.
Absolutely, that is so critical. If you don't have a business mission of what you want to do, where you're going, then how are you going to know when you get there? How are you going to know what adjustments to make along the way? But Mark, I'll tell you, the other piece with this is that most people don't even have a life mission. So they go into business, and you ask them what their mission is for their business, or what the purpose is for their business, or why they're doing what they're doing, and they don't know that. And then you ask them, what are you doing in your life? What's the mission of your life? What do you hope to leave behind in your life? And they're like, I don't know. I guess I'm just trying to save up and retire comfortably. Well, that's not a mission. That's mission, right? You end up with a life of self-entertainment if you have no mission. You're just going out to eat, watching movies, hanging out with friends, and then at some point you scratch your head and you say, well, I got to do something. Well, maybe I'll volunteer. I'm now retired. I used to be a plumber, so I guess I have plumbing skills. I'm going to volunteer to do plumbing work for nonprofit organizations. Well, that's not a mission either. That's you're just occupying your time till you go out to eat and go to movies with friends and can feel good about it because you're doing something for the community. We really need to kind of identify what's core for us and what we want to do and what we hope to leave behind. I mean, what's our purpose here on earth? And then what's the purpose of the business, and how does that all fit in to create a legacy for ourselves, our community, our family? It's really important. People don't do that.
No, they don't do that. Another thing, I'm going to bring in a couple of our other guests. I'll start off with a woman first, and then I'll bring in another guest as well. But I was also curious, as I bring in one of our other guests, is this notion of life coaches, because you mentioned being a business coach and all in that space. And sometimes I know a lot of people, there's been definitely during this pandemic, everybody and their mother seems like they're a coach and all in that space. So I just wondered your thoughts around coaching, because I've definitely heard the famous quote that we all need a coach in life. Even the coaches need coaches, whether it's the great coaches like Bill Belichick, I'm sure, had a coach over there at the Patriots and all in that space. But then sometimes folks are like, wait a minute, everybody can be a coach, because it seems like everybody is a coach. So I'd love to hear your
Everybody
thoughts.
is a coach. It's so easy. It's like a wild west out there, because anybody can sit down and say, you know what, I'm a coach. I'm doing this kind of, I'm a depression coach. I can't get licensed as a licensed mental health counselor, but I could hold out a placard in front of my office and say, I do depression coaching and well-being coaching. And that's a free for all for folks. You have to be really careful. The first book, we were talking about writing. I just finished my 18th book. And the very, very first book that I wrote is called How to Choose a Coach. And it's free. All you have to do is look up 10 things to know before you get a coach. It's a little baby book. It's only like, I don't know, 12, 13,000 words. And I decided at some point, I'm like, I'm just going to make that book free. I'm written 17 other books now, so I've got income from those pieces. I don't need that. And that's a really good resource for sorting through all the people that are out there saying, I can coach you with that. I'm a dog walking coach. Whatever it is, right? It's easy.
Yeah, along those same lines, Teresa, if you would, definitely, Teresa, if you'll share a little bit about your own background. And I know that you're into green living, and I know a lot of people have been paying attention more toward Mother Nature and all along those lines. I was actually on another show earlier today, and you'll get a kick out of this as a green living person. But I've been noticing a lot of animals that have been more rambunctious and out there in the public, including some of the wild ones. I don't know if you heard the beginning, but at the beginning I was talking about some of the things going on in my own life. And one of the things that was happening in my life is I try to pay attention to what goes on in the common space of nature as well. So not just my friends that are what they're doing, but also what the animals are doing. So like literally I saw a bird circling around. I was trying to figure out why it was circling around, because it was probably a predator type bird. And I'm going like, I don't think anybody's passing away in this neighborhood or there's plenty prey. It's an apartment complex. But I'm hoping that that wasn't the case, but it might have been finding a animal that it was going to descend on at some point. But I also saw a raccoon, because I went down to the bus stop that I go to, one of them regularly near my cultural arts center. And I used to have a pet raccoon a long time ago. And I saw this other raccoon walking toward me, and I'm going like, one, that's a very big raccoon. I'm a little worried because he might have had way too much food and everything. And then he saw me, and I think he was coming toward the garbage can, because near the bus stop is a garbage can. But when he saw me, he decided to walk to the dumpster where he probably could find better food. It's like going to a restaurant. You can find better dining at the bigger meal place and everything. So he escaped. And then yesterday, and this is the one that I was saying, it's somewhat joking, but not totally. I saw literally walking through my apartment complex a red fox, not Red Fox, the famous comedian, and not a fox like the term that we sometimes use for women and all along those lines, but literally a red fox. And it was walking down casually like it owned the neighborhood and like it was going to its own apartment complex. I'm going like, I don't know that we're renting to these animals, but if it's got a key, maybe it did tell me that it's going to its own apartment complex. But what is your thoughts around green living? And just share a little bit about your own thoughts. By the way, Scott is over there in the area of New Hampshire, in New England. So I know that there's a lot of things over there that are in the nature lane as well.
Well, let me first start by saying I'm a diehard Buffalo Bills fan, and I was very sad the New England Patriots beat our Bills this past weekend. So first off, because I know you were talking about your fantasy football, and if you're in New Hampshire, you're probably a Patriots fan, but we'll move on from that. And then second of all, Mark, I'm in Buffalo, New York. So you talked about Milwaukee. Buffalo is right up there with Milwaukee, although it was 71 degrees here today. So who knows? Climate, who knows these days. So we were in shorts all day today. Anyway, so my background, just so you know, I grew up in Buffalo, born and raised, and I was very fortunate. I grew up in the 60s, and I'm 60 now. And my mother was very ahead of her time and kept us away from chemicals and products with chemicals. And we ate all organic food, and we did not eat Burger King or McDonald's. We didn't have pizza. We had fresh fruit when we came home from school, or hummus and cottage cheese or whatnot. So I thought everybody ate like that until I got a little bit older. And my mother worked in the local co-op here, and we still shop in that co-op. All 5 kids do. So we were very aware of what was going on in our environment at the time, and she was. And we cleaned with baking soda and vinegar at the time. We still do. And throughout the course of the last 40, 50 years of my life, I was geared towards helping people get toxic chemicals out of their homes. That's what my passion in life really has been. When I came out of college, I had a business major, a minor in health. I was supposed to open up a massive supermarket that I had a business plan for. And it is Whole Foods. I have nothing to do with Whole Foods. I came out of college as a party planner, and I've had a party event planning business here in Buffalo, New York for 38 years. And I've planned over 700 events and have done the majority of the events for a lot of professional athletes. here in Buffalo and corporations. But right before COVID hit, I wanted to really get in the space that I had been made for, and that was for helping people get the toxins out of their homes. I had been doing it on the side here and there. A lot of cancer patients, a lot of people would come to me after they got sick. I am not a doctor, I'm not a scientist, but I've studied it for my entire life. And I know what toxins can do to your body and how they can affect you. So I was doing that. So then I studied a lot more. I took courses. I have gotten certified, and I now have a podcast like you do, that I interview people in this space, and I have a product line where it's a cleaning supply that I made that was just a fluke, and people said, you have to sell this. So from there, what do? I still help people. I will not per se say that I'm officially a coach, because I really help people detox their homes. I help them go through their homes and figure out where these toxins could be coming from that could be affecting their health, from candles to lotion to deodorant to food to plastics to containers to what you're cooking your food into, your coffee pot. I mean, the list goes on, from top to bottom. So that's really my passion in life, besides football, of course. And that is what I do at the Green Living Gurus.
Yeah, it sounds amazing. As you were saying that, I was thinking to myself how many people probably have all kinds of toxins, because I know that even here in Durham, there were some people that were living in a housing complex. The housing complex is now being in the process, I think, of being shut down because they found that it had all kinds of asbestos in it and all along those lines. But I'm thinking that even in your regular houses and in apartment complexes and in a number of other places, there's probably everything from the asbestos to, I even know some businesses and stuff that have had various forms of mold and all along that line. So I'm just wondering, how prominent is this notion of the toxic things that are in our houses, and is it just so much prevalent that we can't really do much about it? Because that is something else that I hear people talking about, is they're going like, yeah, this, the wall has probably got asbestos, or the wall has got that. I don't know that I can get rid of all of the toxic things that are out there within my house. And I'm just wondering your pushback to that, because I'm imagining there's a pushback to that kind of philosophy.
Yeah, well, there's toxins in everything. You can't avoid them once you walk outside your house, but you can contain them in your house. Now, asbestos is a whole nother ball game. That's like that. I won't even touch, because that's a whole different company that you want to get the professionals in for that. You don't want to mess with it. But what I do is I have an indoor air quality monitor. I show people levels of toxins that are coming in their home. I then help them get rid of some of the toxins that can be outgassing, that they could be breathing in, that they could be putting on their skin. We encourage them to get either blood work or urine tested. There's lots of companies that do it. We'll show you the levels of different chemicals that are in your body. And then we work from there and start eliminating these chemicals. And people see the difference. Once they start making the changes, the levels of the chemicals from the indoor air quality monitor start to go down. The levels of the toxins are going down in their body. It's been proven, and especially when you switch from non-organic food to organic food to organic food, you'll see a change within 2 weeks. People don't understand how sick they can possibly be feeling until they feel better. And a lot of these toxins are making people not feel good, and they don't even know why. And so many autoimmune illnesses are out there right now, and doctors are just prescribing medicine because that's what they're trained to do. They're not trained to say, well, what could be causing you sick? Well, let's give you medicine for your illness. Not let's try to figure out what it is. Why are you getting headaches every day? That could be coming from the laundry detergent that you're using in your sheets and your clothing, that you're breathing in fragrances all day long, sleeping in fragrances all day long that are known carcinogens, that are known to endocrine disruptors. So it's getting people to understand and starting to open up their eyes, reading labels, understanding where all these chemicals could be coming from.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. One of the things I'm going to bring in the other guests that I've got as well, but one of the things that was very pleasantly surprising to me is how many of our young people are actually thinking about these issues, whether it's climate or whether it's even healthy eating. Because I know that there was a group of young people that were doing their vision of what 2100 would look like. And a lot of it that had included urban gardens and growing more instead of growing upward instead of going horizontal. So they were definitely looking at something that could be more economical, but also more better for the environment and better for nature. Because like I said, I was pleasantly surprised at how many kids wanted urban gardens and wanted to have some things that were in that space of healthy living and all along those lines. And I think these were kids that were between the ages of, maybe the youngest was around 6 up to like high school age and all along those lines. So I was just wondering, do you find that our young people are being more devoted toward having this kind of healthy living, or are they falling into the habits of their parents and grandparents?
No, they are ahead of the time. They are aware of it. They are seeing, they are reading, they are learning. They know what's happening to our waterways. Our water systems are so polluted. The water that all of us drink in this country I wouldn't even drink it no matter where I go, but they know that. They're seeing it, they're reading it. It's a fresh breath of fresh air, I guess. I have many nieces and nephews, and I see what they're doing that we never did. You know, they're more into juices and organic food, and they're driving it, definitely. And it's changing some of the markets out there, and some of the products are definitely coming on that these kids are now in tune.
Yeah. Scott, do you
You know,
think
our houses are toxic horror shows.
Yeah.
Really, you know, I'm a volunteer firefighter. And when I first started working as a firefighter, it was the norm to go to a fire, and then we drive back in our car, and, you know, people kind of left their clothes as they were, because they were kind of ashy or dirty. It gave you that like rust, you know, that you've been around kind of look. And in the last couple of years, it's totally changed. They're like, if you go to a fire and you got stuff on your clothes, you take off your clothes there. You do not get in your car. You take your clothes off, you put them in a big plastic biohazard bag, and then you go back to the station and wash them, because they're contaminated from all the crap that are in people's houses that have become ignited. It's just horrible.
Horrible.
No, it's totally horrible. And as you were just saying that, I was thinking to myself, as there used to be a very popular jazz club here. It's now been converted to another kind of club. But at the time, it was Talk of the Town. And it was when you could go into bars and clubs and they would be smoke fields. Now, I know a lot of clubs are not that way now, and a lot of them have regulations against that. But I can tell you that as a non-smoker, I used to love going and hearing jazz bands, R&B bands, and a number of other bands. And at that time, I was living in a loft apartment, also here in Durham. And I just remember literally going, I can't tell you how many times literally coming from the club, I ran to the washing machine in order to wash the clothes that I had just come out of. Because even though I'm not a smoker, all of that smoke had absorbed into the clothes that I was wearing at the time. And I literally could smell it. So I was like, oh, got to wash these clothes, because they had that smell of the smoke around it, even though I was a non-smoker. So I'm glad that they did change some of those laws around smoking designated areas and all in that space. Because like I said, that was almost a couple of decades ago, but still it's still a concern that I have, even for my nephews and others, when they're going into some of these environments. But what are your thoughts about that? Because I do remember that being a regular routine. I mean, it was almost like a comedy routine. As much times I would come out of the club, enjoy myself, listening to the jazz, listening to the R&B, having conversation with friends of mine. As a matter of fact, one of my friends is getting ready to celebrate his open mic. I think he's getting ready to celebrate either his 25th or his 30th anniversary, but that was one of the places that it was at for the longest time. But I'd be there supporting him, and then I'm like, nope, gotta run to the laundromat, because as soon as I stepped out of that room, I'm like, well, that smells like smoke, and I know I'm not smoking, so what's going on here?
I'll never forget when I'd used to go out, you know, back in the 80s, 90s. I used to come home and I had to take a shower. I couldn't go to sleep with the smoke in my hair. And it was just disgusted me. But that was, thankfully, I mean, airplanes. Think about when we used to fly in the 80s. I mean, you'd fly with people smoking sitting in front of you. So that thankfully has changed. And people are starting to be aware of our indoor air quality. And the FDA, EPA and the CDC for that matter, report that our indoor air is somewhere between 2 and 100 times more polluted than the outdoor air. And that's pretty significant because people think that when they're in their homes that that's like a safe haven. It's not. Our indoor air, the outgassing from so many of these chemicals that people are cleaning with, that you're using every single day, that are plastics that are outgassing in your home. If people ever knew what they are breathing in. I mean, even standing over your sink to do hand wash soap. If you're using something like I don't even know what the green, blue jars of soap, those are all chemicals that, hot water, you're breathing in those chemicals. Little things like that. Your coffee pot heats up. BPA, you could be drinking BPA in your coffee every morning. It's so it's really what I try to help people do is become more conscious of what's going on in your everyday life and anything you buy, and look at your labels and make sure you're aware of everything. You look at labels that you probably eat. I would think most people look at what they're eating, but so many people don't look at what they're using in their home and bringing in their home and putting on their skin. Shaving cream, deodorant. I mean, all those things that you're using, you should really be paying attention to what those ingredients are.
Along those same lines,
in the last 10 years or 15 years, we become so focused on in the name of energy efficiency of totally like enclosing our house. So like no heat or drafts can get in. It's like putting a plastic bag over your head and squirting this stuff in, and it's like a coffin. You just that's it.
It's a coffin, honestly. And I've had some people that I've worked with that go through homes just to analyze them, and they're tired, and I tell them, why you're tired? You have no air in your house. Right. You have everything's tight and insulated. And I always tell people, open up your windows. I don't care if it's 10 below, even just get a little percent of fresh air moving through your house and trying to circulate the air and clean your air purify or clean your filters on all of your air conditioners and clean those fans that are in your ceiling and making sure that you're getting fresh air. And if you can afford an air purifier, absolutely get an air purifier. I'm a big proponent of them. So those are just some things. And I'm glad you brought that up, Scott, because it's a crisis with people that have these new builds.
Yeah, Mr. Graham brought up, he said that I needed a dog. I don't know. Maybe I'll get the dog at some point or get the cat and all along those lines. But I'm also sometimes wondering about the green nature of some of the pet foods and other things that we have as well. Because I'm sometimes thinking that some of the things that we are even giving our animals are not all that green either. But I'd love to hear your thoughts around that, because I do know that there are some products out there that can be more healthy for those animals, whether it's a cat, a dog, or a rabbit, or whatever it is the animal you may have, even the fish. But there are some things that are out there that are not all that great that we are also including in our care of our pets.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, because my dog just walked in a second ago. There's a book that changed my life when it came to pet food, and it's called Food Pets Die For. This woman's dog died because of the food she was feeding it, and she did all this research on food. Well, pet food is not regulated. You can make pet food, you can sell it, and there's no regulation. It could be dead animals for all I care. And some of the pet food
it is dead animals sometimes.
I was just going to say some of the pet food use dead carcasses. So a lot of the pet foods use the stuff that would never be fed to humans. So gratefully, there are better pet foods on the market, and there are ones that have human grade. So like we could eat it. And so thankfully, and that really has occurred over in the past probably 10 years. It's a huge industry right now for the pet food industry. But I would definitely do your research on that, because pet food can be very toxic to dogs. And I mean, I see all the time dogs getting, today, somebody came up to me and said, my dog has cancer all over his body. And, and pets are prone to cancer too, whether it's the water they're drinking, whether it's you spray your lawn. Guess what? You spray your lawn with pesticides and herbicides, you put your dog out there, they're ingesting those pesticides and herbicides, which are cancer-causing chemicals. So even for your pets, you got to be really careful where they're laying, what they're doing, what they're eating, what they're drinking. It's definitely something that you should be concerned with all the time.
Yeah,
And don't necessarily trust your vets about this stuff either.
100%.
Because just like you go to see the doctor, like you were talking, Therese, you go to the doctor and say, I've got this malady, and they're not saying, oh, what are you putting? You're putting stuff in a plastic bag and putting it over your head because you're living in a coffin.
Yeah.
They don't do that. They're like, here's a pill. And your vets don't necessarily know that either. You got to do your own research.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. And vets are also driven by money. They make a lot of money off of vaccinations. They make a lot of money off the food and everything that they sell in their store. I mean, I fight with my vet all the time. I only give my dog rabies, but same. And doctors, when you mention doctors too, I mean, I love doctors. We need them, but they're trained 6 hours for preventative medicine. They're really trained by the pharmaceutical industry to give you drugs. And the veterinarian industry is the same way. So you really have to be cautious in all of that. On both avenues.
I'm glad you brought that up. Everything I'm gonna bring up the other guests as well. But one of the things I've been hearing a lot of people is the miseducation and the miseducation of our youth and all along those lines. Because a lot of the stuff that you are talking about should probably be taught in our schools, and I don't know that it's being taught in our schools here in the United States and even in other parts of the world as well. But I definitely love to hear from Ron and others around that thought, because I don't think that we are doing enough teaching of our things that are going on in the school system. Because I know even the network here, part of the reason that they were founded is because they would like to hear more conversations around fiscal literacy, around education, and even our vocational fields. Because I think you mentioned being a volunteer fireman, G. Scott, and everything, but a lot of these are not fields that are as much used in the school as they used to be and everything. But definitely, if you share a little bit about your story as well, Ron, and then I definitely want to continue the conversation with you.
And even conversations, I remember when I was in school, Therese, you're the same age as Mark and I don't know about you, but when I was in school, I had a class called civics. Mm-hmm. They don't teach classes on civics. They don't teach critical thinking. They don't teach, look, he's laughing. He's like, no, not here anymore. It's just whatever. Go on social media and that's your education. It's horrible. Right? Exactly. You're right.
Yeah. Pastor Billy, if you'll share a little bit about what you got going on and what's happening in your life and everything.
Well, hello, everyone, and thank you for having me on. It's a great pleasure, and all the topics are excellent. Before I talk about myself, I want to tell Ms. Teresa, I was on 7 different medications. They just was pumping me in with pills, and my wife was like, they're killing you. You need to get off those pills. And I weaned myself off about 5 to 7 different pills, and my whole life changed. I went from 325 pounds down to 220 pounds. Those pills are killing us, and people need to know if they could go without those pills, get rid of them. Okay, so hallelujah. So I'm Billy Williams, and my life started off really rough. I was sold as a child. The whole time I was raised, I thought I was adopted. Everyone in my family thought I was adopted. Everyone around me thought I was adopted, but I ended up being sold as a child. And so as I got older, I learned that my parents that raised me weren't my parents, and that I had a parent out there somewhere. And then I ended up finding my mom, but my mom, she didn't want to see me after I found her. So I got sold and then rejected. So that's pretty much how my life started. But the people who sold me did a really good job raising me and trying to teach me the truth and try to teach me how to be a good person and things of that nature. So I had good parents, and I was never without. So that's a good thing. Right now, I'm a pastor of an online church called Unity Christian Fellowship, and what we're trying to do is encourage people to be the church as they are. So that's why there's no building. We're encouraging people to take the church with them, take God with you, take His peace with you, take His love with you, take His joy with you. Everywhere you go, you are the church, and that's the mentality of our mission. to start.
Hey, along those same lines, Pastor Billy, really quickly, I know that you're also a Army veteran, and one of the other events that I've been involved with is a thing called the Road to New York. It used to be called the Road to the Apollo because it definitely still goes to the Apollo. We take the winners up there, but it's also a veteran advocacy activity because the founder of it, Captain Newborn, ironically, and y'all will get a kick out of that, that is actually his first name. That is not his rank. He never served in the military or anything along those lines, but it is his first name, and he is a veteran advocate. So he will talk about some of the abuses that our veterans are going through because we know they're having some hard times around certain things, including some of the health things. So your point, because Therese, because I know that the veterans have definitely had some chemical things that have been impacting them in some of the wars that they have been part of. So that is something he talks about, including, I think there was a major water incident in one of our major forts. It might even be Fort Bragg or one of the other ones that is here as well. Just wondering if you could speak to the veteran rights and the veterans issues, because I definitely have a great deal of respect for our veterans, and particularly those that are in the different branches. Have some relatives that have served and some that have retired and all in that space, but I don't know that we give enough respect to our veterans. But I'd love to hear your thoughts, and I don't know if G. Scott is a veteran or has veterans in his family, but I'll start with you, Pastor Billy.
Well, yeah, I have had people who have been sick because of the burn pits, and I was on multiple trips out of the country, and so there's a lot of things that we encounter that we're not being, that the soldiers and I mean the veterans are not being taken care of. But just recently, from my understanding, this year they just passed a bill to include the burn pit, and that was very important because the toxics coming from that rubber and all the fuel and all the things we were using to keep us warm, it really put a toll on us.
I can believe that and everything. G. Scott, did you say that you had served or knew people that had served as well? Because like I said, I do know that is a topic.
Right. It's a great point. We turn to folks and we talk to them and say, thank you for your service once a year. And it's always in the past tense. And what we forget is that veterans are continuing to serve because the trials and tribulations, the traumas, the toxins, all that stuff that they were exposed to, they bring back with them. And that is still a core part. I mean, that's where you see people like the Warrior Project that's out there to really help. Wounded Warrior Project. Those folks are to help veterans that have been really traumatized. Those folks are continuing to serve and they will be serving till their dying day, even though they're not on the front line anymore. And we need to remember that.
That's right.
Yeah. Therese, what's your thoughts? Like I said, when I heard some of those,
I'm sorry.
No, Therese, what's your thoughts? Because when I heard some of those statistics, and particularly the toxic aspect of what some of the veterans were going through, it definitely did resonate with me when I was hearing some of those statistics that Captain Newborn brings up and all along those lines. So I'm sure that even in your research, you've seen some of what the folks have done in battle and some of these chemicals that are being used by our military.
Absolutely. And the autoimmune illnesses amongst veterans is really high. And then the other thing that I've sat in on quite a bit are some of the Air Force bases have been polluted with so many chemicals, especially ones where they do a lot of testing. And Scott, I don't know if you're familiar with some of the foams that they use in
huge cancer
rates, and not only cancer rates, it's in their water. North Carolina has a big problem with one of their. I interviewed somebody on my podcast about a base down there. So this is a very common thing amongst different bases across the country.
Yeah, no doubt about it and everything. Just switching the topic just slightly, because like I said, the dinner party, we've talked about a lot of things, and I was going to come back to sports because, and I was wondering some of the things, Pastor Billy, that you have learned and everything, because I know that you have had success as a coach, but you've also had some of those seasons that weren't all that great. So I did say I was going to bring that up because I know that I mentioned my fantasy team that is now going to be 1-something as of now, but I think you said you had some teams that were champion teams that had lots of wins and definitely had the championship quality. But you also said that you had some seasons where you didn't win a game. So I was just wondering, what are some of those life lessons that you learned as a coach? Because you've done some youth coaching on various levels. I think even on some of the high school levels and maybe even some of the college levels. So what are some of the life lessons that you have learned from both winning and losing?
Real quick, I just want to get 10 seconds to give a shout out to the DAV and the VFW because they helped me. And it's just, I just want to let them, there are organizations out there that are helping us veterans before I move on. Okay, saying that. Yes, first we can start with the losing season. I was coaching my son's youngest team and they were just starting out. And because I was kind of big-headed. I'm going to be honest with you. I was kind of big-headed because I had won the championships prior to this team. So I learned a lot losing with my son. And the problem I had was I wanted him to learn the rules and the regulations and the way to play correctly and how to hit right. And I was just, I was a fixture on that. And I didn't listen to the staff around me. I didn't listen to the parents around me, because I'm a champion. I've won a championship. So that really humbled me and shared and taught me that, no, you have to listen to those around you. And so in a nutshell, I took the fun away from the team, being too educated, being too, trying to teach the technique perfectly, and they're 7 years old. They're 8. You understand what I'm saying? So here I'm trying to teach them correctly, but I took the fun out the game because I really wanted them to win, because I know how fun it is to win. And so you have to find it's a thin line between, having fun and winning, because winning it is fun to win. I'm just saying, it's a lot of fun to win. It's more fun to win than to lose. However, you can have a fun season losing. And so I took the fun out the game. And so I'm telling coaches now, at a young age, just let the kids have fun. Just let them have fun. They'll learn the game eventually. At the young age, let them have fun. Now, you get a little more competitive at the high school level and at the college level, you get a little more competitive. But when they're babies, 7, 8, 9, 10, let them have fun and let them play. And listen to some of the parents. Some of the parents know the game. And one parent's like, Coach, we didn't play 6 games. You ain't did one reverse. And I was like, oh my God, I haven't. Right? That's one of the funnest plays in Pop Warner. It's a reverse for the little kids to get the ball and run around. So I had really just closed mine because of the success I did have. So you got to be careful when you have success. So
no, as you were saying that, Pastor Billy, I was actually just thinking about a incident several years back. Like I said, my nephews are 14 and 15 right now as of August and everything. But I remember it was almost 5 or 6 years ago that they were doing what you just said. They were playing the game. They were having fun. I want to say that they were winning the game and all along those lines. And I want to say it was my oldest nephew. I think it was Julius. I don't think it was Langston. But they were having pitching a fit, and they were basically having a temper tantrum, and everybody was like, wait a minute, why are you having a temper tantrum? And all along those lines, I think I was there asking the questions. I know that both of their grandparents, my parents, were asking the question and everything, and the answer was something that you just said, because my nephew turned around and said, well, I don't want to stop playing, because they were having so much fun playing the game that they wanted to continue playing, and that's why they had the temper tantrum. It didn't matter whether they were winning or losing. They just didn't want to stop the continuation of the game. They were having fun in that moment of playing.
Yeah. Oh, it's fun to play. Oh, it's fun to play the game. And as a player, because I played since I was 6 years old as well. I played from 6 all the way to before I played a year in college as well before I went to the Army. And so, I love to play the game. And so I had to remind myself how fun the game was. And that really helped. Them kids love to play. It's a fun thing. It's a fun experience for them. And we need to keep it that. Keep the adult out of it and let the kids play, have fun.
Now, I'm glad you brought that thing, and this is for all of you, and then I'm going to ask a question about spirituality as well, and this is for everybody. I used to be part of the group called the Funky Eye Puppets. It was a vocal group. IPC used to work with George Lucas, and part of it is bringing people into voice acting and doing some animated kind of things in the sense of characters. And one of the things they used to tell us is that we had to get out of our heads because as adults, and we've been talking about it, all these adult issues, we sometimes are so busy adulting that we forget about the childhood wonder and all along those lines. So I was just wondering your thoughts around that, and what are some of the things that each of you individually do to keep that childlike wonder? Because I do think that whether you're in your 60s, as most of us are here, or in your 20s or 30s, even, that you're so busy wanting to, be at it all the time, be that success, that driven force and everything, that sometimes I think even in relationships, we don't continue to play as well. So I'll start with you, Teresa, and then I want to hear from G. Scott and Pastor Billy as well. What are some of the ways that you keep the fun in life, particularly when you're doing such serious things in life, like trying to make sure that we're not having this toxic nightmare that we are all having and everything?
Oh, I am so good at keeping the fun in life, and I am so good at not acting my age. As an event planner, I am planning things all the time. I am the person that creates fun for everybody. I mean, I can hang out with 5-year-olds. I can hang out with 90-year-olds. I enjoy that. I have a lot of stress too in my life, but I know how to handle it. And I know that you need to have laughter all the time. As I told you, I'm a diehard Buffalo Bills fan and a Buffalo Sabres fan for that matter. And I have a tailgate that I run for all ages. I created hats for these. If anybody's ever seen the big blue hats with white horns, that was me. So, I mean, it's all about appreciate. My mother always said, live your life like you're going to die tomorrow, but plan it like you're going to live forever. And I do that.
That's a great quote.
Yeah.
That's a great quote.
I love that quote as well. G. Scott, how do you keep the fun in your life? I'm seeing the sunlight in your background and everything, something that sometimes it might even just be going out in walks there in the New England area, even though it's a little bit cold.
Well, I live on 100 acres, and I run a nonprofit farm animal rescue in my free time. But besides that, I have 2 dogs that keep me really going. And what I try to do is bridge the gap between the fun stuff and the pragmatic stuff. This year, I decided I was going to teach my dogs paddleboarding. And so I've got a big black lab and a little Jack Russell Terrier. And the 3 of us learned how to paddleboard together. I'd never paddleboarded before this. And he's back. Hi, Pastor Billy. I've never paddleboarded before this, and paddleboarded and taught my dogs. We fell off the board numerous times. It was quite the challenge. And at the same time, I'm putting together a book on this because there's no books on how to teach your dogs how to paddleboard. And so I'm having fun and tying it into a purpose at the same time. And we've paddleboarded hundreds of miles this summer. It's been a blast and a half.
I was on Clubhouse, and I'm definitely going to hear from Pastor Billy as well, as how he keeps the fun in life and everything. I think part of it is coaching. But I was on Clubhouse, the Clubhouse app earlier today, and we were actually talking a little bit about what you just said in that space, because one of the conversation points was whether people are stereotyped by their animals and all along those lines. So they were like wondering if you have like if you're the dainty woman and you have the Rottweiler, do people perceive you in a certain way? Or if you are a big buff man, or like maybe a boxer and something, you're walking around with a poodle, do people perceive you as well? So I just wondering your thoughts around that, and if that is something that you have run across, because I'm thinking that your dogs might fit your personality, G. Scott, or maybe they're a little bit smaller and people are like, what's he doing with that small dog and everything? G. Scott, any thoughts around that? Do you have the stereotypical masculine dog, for lack of a better term?
I do not. I mean, my 2 dogs, my black lab is named Groot, Groot, and the little Rottweiler, white Rottweiler, is Rocket, right out of Guardians of the Galaxy, and they are totally different. Like the little white dog's all over the place. The black dog is just big and doofy and cuddly. So I don't fit on either one of those. Depends on my mood. If I am in a very gregarious mood, that little Jack Russell's all over the place. When I'm not, that big doofy black lab just is all jumping on top of me.
What about your
Yeah.
dog's personality, Therese? Does it fit you and everything, or is it a different personality other than your own personality?
High energy, very fun. And I once had 3 dogs. I'm down to 1 now. I always used to have Labradors, Scott. But now I'm down to my playmate over here. That's a Australian Labradoodle. And he's just full of life.
Sounds
That's
like
nice.
everything. Hey, Pastor Billy, the other part we were talking about is how do you maintain that childlike wonder in life and everything? Because, like I said, I sometimes think that when we get to adult spaces, we don't oftentimes do enough of that childlike wonder. So, how do you maintain that childlike wonder?
I think I'm gonna throw a twist in here for you. I encourage each individual person to tap into the joy of their spirit, like the joy of God. And so, because each person is individual. So me, myself, I love nature. I love sports. Go Rams. I was going to get to that. But I'm just saying, each person has things that make them excited. Each person has things that give them joy. So what gives me joy may not give Brother Scott joy or Teresa joy. So I encourage people to find out on their own what is it that gives you joy on the inside and live in that every day. That's what I try to get people to find. And those who don't, I sit there and talk to them and say, hey, what are the things you like? And then you find out, oh, I like to draw. I said, well, hey, get you a notepad and start drawing and see how that feels. And some people, I like to do music. And then so you encourage them to get into music, encourage them to do the things that they like to do. And then that way they can always tap into their joy somehow. But it's a spiritual thing for me. I really encourage people to get a personal relationship with the Creator and tap into His joy, because His joy can't nobody take away.
No, I definitely agree with you on that and everything. Speaking of spirituality, Pastor Billy, and I'd love to hear from G. Scott as well as Therese. Sometimes, and you kind of alluded to it with the church that you created, sometimes I consider myself more spiritual than religious. And part of that is I get frustrated by certain bigger churches because I sometimes think that we get caught up too much in the cult of personality and a lot of those kind of messages. And we were paying more attention to the message of the personality of the minister or the other figures within the church and not enough to the actual message. And I personally think that a lot of the messages are similar. I know we're in the middle of a very tense conflict between the Muslim and the Islamic community and the Jewish community, but I think that the messages are very similar in terms of love of family, love of nature, love of a number of other things. And I think that we spend too much time on the division, because I personally think, and like I said, I'm not in a rush, 61 and hoping that I got another 61 years in me, maybe even another 161 years. I know that's next to impossible, but I can dream all day long if I want to have that dream in that space and everything. But that being said, whenever those heaven gates open for me, I think there are going to be a lot of people up there that other people might be surprised that are up there and all of that lane, because they don't necessarily fit in that box where people are being like my way or the highway kind of attitude of religion and everything. So that's just my philosophy. And like I said, so people have to agree, but I'm just thinking that there might be some Buddhists up there. There might be some Christians up there. There might be some folks that you did not expect to be up there. But I'd love to hear your thoughts around that, Pastor Billy, and if anybody else wants to jump in as well.
Well, my whole belief system is based around Matthew chapter 7, where Christ says there's a narrow path and a wide path. And I wrote, I did write, I finally got the book completed on that. And what I'm realizing is this narrow path has all the traits that most religions have. And if everybody will live according to what their particular faith tells them to live, this world would be outstanding. The issue is that each faith is not adhering to what God has called their faith to do. And so, and it's across the board. It's everybody. Because Christ asked us to be a certain way, and it's a narrow path. And on the wide path, there's many people who are doing it the wrong way. And that's why the world is in turmoil, because they're not doing it the way their faith has asked them to do it. Every faith is love, joy, helping one another, bearing each other's burdens, teaching people, helping people. It has nothing to do with murder and killing. However, that's what's going on. Hate, that's what's going on because most people are allowed to live on the wide path in in any faith that they're in any religion they're in, Muslim, Buddhist, Christian, you name it. Each organization has people that are not living the way their creator has asked them to live. And I believe that's the issue. So the God asked me to show them there's a narrow path. It includes righteousness. It includes love. It includes forgiveness. It includes helping. It includes unity. So those are the things that we should be, all faith should be able to gravitate towards that. I mean, everyone can agree it's wrong to hate. Everyone can agree it's wrong to steal. Everyone can agree that it's the correct thing to do is to love. I mean, these are things that are common that we can all agree on and put those at the top of the list where we follow. And I think we could start there and we'd be okay.
Yeah, I definitely agree.
You know, Pastor Bill, you were just talking about copying a few minutes ago, and I think it comes down to, like, when you're talking about copying, people are copying the wrong things. We're copying cars, planes, you know. Therese, people turn on the television and they get blasted with all this marketing stuff, and they're copying to keep up. Mm-hmm. And they end up with 7,367,000 cleaners when they only need just a little bit, because they're copying all these other. That's what's going to happen. When I get that cleaner, I'll get this. And when I do this, I'll smile and I'll get laid and I'll be happy and I'll have all this. I mean, this is crazy. And we're not copying the things that are important, like do unto others, like be more caring, love more, be more Christ-like. We forget, no one out there is copying Scott and Helen Nearing, who many years ago talked about simplifying life, getting rid of all this extra stuff, and being focused on the essentials. I mean, I think you really hit on it, Billy, when you said copying.
Yeah, no doubt about that. Got one of the guests we're going to bring in, and we still got about another 25, 30 minutes to go, but definitely wanted to bring in John Sheen as well. So, John, if you just share a little bit about your philosophy and what you've got going on. We've been having conversations about a number of things in this space, everything from sports, and we found out we got everybody from a Rams fan to a Buffaloes fan to a Patriots fan, and I definitely root for two teams, including one, ironically, that has suffered in losses, because I mentioned earlier my fantasy doing bad, but I'm not doing that well in the teams that I root for as well, because I'm a Carolina native, which means that I root for Carolina Panthers and the Hurricanes, and they're struggling right now, even though they are favored to win in hockey and in football before the Carolina team. And you'll get a kick out of this, the lady that is from Buffalo. I'm a diehard Vikings fan. So the other team that has had bad luck in Super Bowls and with losses is Minnesota, because I think we were like 0-4. I think Buffalo actually won the championships. We didn't have that kind of luck and everything. So
no, we didn't.
So you're in the same boat as the Minnesota Vikings. So we've been having that horrible situation of not being. So, John, if you'll just share a little bit about what you've got going on, like I said, it's the dinner party, so we oftentimes have folks come in and share their life missions, and we just have a free-flowing conversation. So I'd love to hear what you've got going on, and we'll continue the conversation from that point.
Hi, Mark. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I'm this is my first time to try this, so I need to get used to it. But thank you for having me here. I'm grateful for the opportunity to share some quick thoughts with you. I understand that you did you go to Duke?
I live around the corner from Duke. So
okay. That's why you mentioned. Okay, yeah. All right. So you were in Durham. Okay, great.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So tell a little bit about your own businesses and what you've got going on and all in that space, because that's kind of what the dinner party is. We share conversations about what our passions are. And as I said, Pastor Billy was sharing around the faith walk. And we were actually just talking about that earlier, because one of the things that we sometimes talk about on all the shows is this notion of balancing life, because that was something I was going to get to all of the guests and everything, because I sometimes think that we are on these journeys trying to do a lot of things, and that work-life balance is a no joke as well, because I know that that's something I struggle with, trying to work on a variety of projects. And I know that Teresa is an event planner, so she can relate to that, because sometimes you got 5 or 6 things going on at the same time and all along those lines. So that work-life balance is a very can be very turbulent. Unfortunately, like I said earlier, I don't have any kids, so I don't have to balance the kids, and I don't have a wife at the moment, so I don't have to balance that. But just balancing the friendships with the work-life balance can be interesting as well. But John, if you'll share a little bit of your story as well, and then we can continue some of the other conversation.
Sure. I would call myself a parallel entrepreneur as opposed to a serial entrepreneur. And I, mentioned this in my book, Crossing the Swamp. Basically, parallel entrepreneurship is that you have different ideas. You could possibly do different work in different business sectors, and you launch and manage multiple businesses simultaneously. And I think it's a pretty popular concept right now, even though people don't really mention the term. But if you look at a lot of entrepreneurs today, they're running different businesses, just like myself. And I was born and raised in China, and I came here back in 1993 as a international student. So I've been here for 30 years, and I've gone to the process of working for employers as an employee, and started my own business, and finally have gone through the up and downs of entrepreneurship. We have seen really bad situations back in 2008 that actually destroyed my previous business. But then, I rebounded. I built a group of new businesses after that. So I'm currently based in Southern California. My major business is American Lending Center, is a state-regulated non-bank lender that focuses on government-backed loan programs. So we make commercial loans to eligible small businesses a lot. And what made this business so unique, Mark, is that 14 years ago, when I started this business, I started with a very unique business model that actually combined 2 federal programs together: the SBA 504 program, which is the loan program, and then the EB-5 program. EB-5 program is a foreign investor, immigrant investor program at the federal level that allows the foreign investors to put money into a job creation activities here in the U.S. So the goal is to create more jobs for the U.S. economy, but in the meantime, the investors can qualify themselves for permanent residence. So I built that business model, and we've been running that business model in the last 14 years, pretty successful. We have probably the best track record in the EB-5 industry at this point. We have not lost any money for our investors, but in the meantime, we have created so many jobs and retained so many jobs all over the country through different type of projects. And American Lending Center was also one of the PPP lenders under COVID, and we made roughly 30,000 PPP loans across the nation. So we had borrowers from each one of the 50 states and Washington D.C. And over 85% of our borrowers are either minority or women-owned small businesses.
Wow, that's amazing and everything. Hey, G. Scott, and this is something that John was just talking about and everything. As a business coach, and I agree with what he was just saying, there are a number of folks that are doing multiple businesses, and they are sometimes doing it very well at multiple businesses. I know Teresa's got to leave, but she's an example. I think I'm an example as well, because I do the podcast. I'm going later on in a few minutes to the Cultural Arts Center and all in that space. So we are seeing a number of folks that are doing multiple jobs and being successful at the multiple jobs. But then you have that notion where folks will tell you to stick in your lane and only do one job. And I don't know that is always the correct approach and everything. But I was wondering, as a business coach, your thoughts around that, because I do know so folks will be like, hey, if you're going to be a fireman, be only a fireman. And by the way, you've got multiple jobs as well. But I'm going like, I don't know that that is practical in this particular day and time. But I'd love to hear your thoughts around that, G. Scott.
Well, I think, John talks in his book. Don't you, John, talk about the importance of balance in your book on what you're doing? And I think whatever you do, and I'm the wrong person to ask for this, because I've got like more hats. I mean, I wrote a book. One of my books is on time management. My latest book, and it's going to change the little white thing down there under here from business and career coach. My latest book's on psychedelic coaching, which is as far from time management as you could possibly get. And so I've got multiple hats. I just told you I run a farm animal rescue. It really is, Mark and I, and John, you chime in on this. I think this is a piece for all of us that, Mark, we were talking at the beginning of this about business plans. And I talked about how, the worst thing of not having a business plan is people have a business plan and they toss it aside and they never look at it. And I said, people come into business and they don't even have a life plan. They don't even have a vision for how they want to be. I think, John, you talk about vision and strategic planning and leadership in your book. And Billy, it's about people having a vision for the type of person they want to be and following somebody's steps. And Teresa, it's about people having a vision for the type of life they want to have, free from chemicals. People don't have those visions. They're and then they get sucked in because they don't have a vision. They get sucked into this scheme, that scam, this thing, that thing, this belief, that belief, this church, that thing. And then they're lost. I mean, I'd love to hear John, Billy, Teresa, talk about that from your perspective.
No, definitely. I know Teresa, she's got to get ready to leave shortly. And I'm definitely, one of the things I get everybody to ask, and like I said, we've all got about 15, 20 minutes in the entire show and everything. But one thing I get everybody to do is show how they can be reached and a message of positivity. So in answering this question, I'm going to ask if you want to incorporate those two elements. Definitely do that to Teresa and everything. But one of the things that is very much a topic that I talk about often is what I mentioned at the beginning before John jumped in, which is this work-life balance. So how do you manage that work-life balance, and how do you get that work-life balance with all of these different things? Because I'm thinking that there might be days, Therese, where you've got a event client. Maybe there's a lady that's doing a conference or something like that, and there's people doing some special events, and then you've got talks on this whole notion of toxic society, and then they take care of the dog. So I'm going like, that's just 3 jobs that I don't even know what your personal life is like, and the family life is minus the dog and everything. So I'm like, that's 4 or 5 jobs, just that alone and everything. So how do you do that work-life balance?
And that's my question, right?
Yes.
My work-life balance is I set my priorities. My priorities are my health. I have to make sure that sleep comes first, food, obviously, exercise. Those are priorities that I know that are going to benefit my health, which is eventually going to benefit everything in my life and my family and going down the line. So I'm very, whether I have, no matter what I have, craziness every day, getting my exercise in the morning, I know that is the best thing for my body and my mind. And then it just carries on from there, and making sure I'm getting the right nutrition. I'm not going to eat junk food because I'm stressed out, because I know that's going to be worse for my stress. So those are things that I really focus on. And I know those have gotten me through life in general. And also my body is healthy. And so keeping a healthy body and keeping a healthy mind is so important when I have to juggle a million things every day.
Yeah, that makes a lot of
Yeah.
sense. Go ahead, John.
Yeah, I agree with Therese, right? I think, to me, one of the important things, also part of the routine, is the morning workout. It creates so much value for me. I normally spend an hour in the fitness room every morning. It could be from 6:30 to 7:30. It could be a little bit later, but this is something that I have to do before I go to my office and sit down and start handling work. What I do, well, of course, exercise gives me the energy to handle the work for the rest of the day, but it also creates an opportunity to me, for me to think about the issues, the problems in the business, so that I can take a little bit time without any disruption to maybe come up with some solutions for the problems that I have to deal with for the rest of the day or even the rest of the week. So that's a very, very important thing for me. And also, I think part of what I have to do, to make sure that I'm ready for the work every single day, is that I have to sleep early. Getting enough sleep is super important, and you don't want to sleep 5 or 6 hours and then go to work, because you don't have the energy, you don't have the focus. So there's a lot of things we have to do on daily basis and make it a routine. But it's I think it starts with the food, the sleep, the exercise. That's a huge part of the work-life balance.
Oh, I definitely agree. Hey, Pastor Billy, really quickly, because one of the things we alluded to earlier, and definitely it is something I think we all can agree with, is that there is a notion of division going on in society as well. And sometimes that is a part of the problems that are going on, and some of the toxicity as well. So I was wondering your thoughts around intentionality, because I do think that we need to be intentional even in our business lives and not necessarily stereotype people based on where they are from. And I think that happens in both business community as well as just life in general. I know that John is of Chinese descent, and I know that there are definitely people that had a certain stereotype based on that when the COVID started, just like there are people that have stereotypes around the Latin American population and other populations. So as a religious leader, I was wondering if you could talk about intentionality and getting away from this device that we have in our society. Pastor Billy.
Well, yes, real simple. Real simple. If people would follow their rules, so in the Bible it says, "Let your yes be a yes," right? And so if we would be honest with our opinions, if we would be honest with how we really feel, then we would have the dialogue to understand each and every one else, right? So instead of just accepting or not allowing people to understand where you come from, because a lot of times we suppress what we really feel, and I believe that's a problem. I believe when we suppress how we really feel, it starts to fester inside of us, and then you start making up other reasons to be mad at a certain kind of person, and then you come up with all these other reasons because you haven't expressed how you really feel. Well, say how you feel. Let your yes be your yes and your no be your no, and then let's be honest with one another. Let's do business in an honest fashion, not trying to trick or bamboozle or hoodwink. Let us be honest with one another and say, this is what I want to do. This is what I'm trying to accomplish. This is who I'm trying to help. These are the people I'm trying to lift up. these are the people I'm trying to get paid. Let's be honest. There's nothing wrong with us helping and being honest. It's just that we have to be honest with one another of how we really feel instead of just saying what someone wants to hear so we can get their business.
And speaking of being honest and everything along those lines, like I said, got a few more minutes to go and all in that space. But speaking of being honest, there is a very powerful word. And I know that Teresa's used this word. I know that I have used this word. Sometimes I have a hard time with this word. I'm going to say that word and everything. I know that G. Scott has used the word. I'm sure John has used the word. But sometimes we got to honestly use the word. It's called no. N-O, and all along those lines, because I know that sometimes we are very tempted to say yes to everything and all along those lines, but sometimes you got to say no. So, John, you're a successful. I'm sure there are times that you've had to say no.
Yes, of course. You know, I can share some interesting things that I do on daily basis. I normally can handle at the most 6 or 7 meetings per day, but I get roughly like a 10 meeting events every single day. So I have to say no to some of them. And it's all about priorities of the business. And as you can see, because I run different businesses, so the meetings may come from different businesses, and I have to look at the different businesses and make a judgment as far as the priority levels for each businesses and each issues. So there's some there's some work that I have to do to make sure that I always make the right judgment. But saying no, it's a big part of my business.
Yeah, no doubt about that. Teresa, I know you said you got to run off to a meeting, and actually I got to run off to work very shortly and everything. So we still got about another 10 or 15 minutes we can go. But before we go to that, Teresa, if you can tell folks how you can be reached and contacted and all along those lines, and if there is a message of positivity that you would like to share, because that's something I try to do with all my guests. So before I get out of here, that's something I'm going to do with everybody that has been here, sharing their thoughts and their opinions. John, I know you joined at the latter point, but I definitely want to have you come back on as well, because we definitely do these online dinner parties all the time between 4 and 5:30, sometimes 4 to 6, depending on my own schedule and all along those lines. But definitely hope that all of you will make a return trip, because I've been getting great insights from everybody that has been here as well. But Teresa, if you would share how you can be reached and how you can be gotten in touch with, and a message of positivity that you would like to share, because as Pastor Billy said, this is a turbulent world we live in. So I'm just trying to do my little part to spread some positivity to the world and to make it a better place. And every little bit helps in my mind.
Absolutely. Every little bit helps. And I can be reached at the Green Living Gurus, and I'm very easy to find on there. And I'm on social media. As I said, I have a podcast that's on there as well. All my information is on there. A lot of great information. And my positivity is I was always taught to give back, and in any possible way. And sometimes that's a fault of mine. And because I give so much and I try to do too much, and learning how to say no has been very hard for me. But I know when to say it now, and because I do not, when I commit to something, I do it. And I am I do not like to not be able to fulfill my agreements with people. So I guess giving back is really my positivity in life, whether it's, a homeless person on the street, $1 that will go a long way with them, to somebody that needs some help and needs some nurturing, to helping out with you, Mark. I always open and to sharing my story, because my goal the rest of my life is to really help people avoid these toxic chemicals that are harming our environment and harming our bodies. So on that note, read your labels and start knowing your ingredients, and namaste.
Appreciate
And
that.
you know what, Teresa? When
Yep.
you say no to other people, you're actually saying yes to
Yes.
yourself.
Mhm.
And when you say no to other people and you're not honoring those agreements, you're actually honoring the agreement for yourself.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah, no doubt about it. G. Scott, like I said, if you'll go, we'll just go round robin and everything and
Thanks,
share
everybody.
how you can be reached and how you can be gotten in touch with. And I'm actually going off camera because it's, when you say yes, you also have to make sure that you got your colors on as well. So I've got to make some changes in terms of what I'm wearing and all along those lines to get ready for work and so on, a sweater and some other things. So y'all might see me off camera, but while you're saying your things, G. Scott, I would love to hear your thoughts around things that are going on in that space and a message of positivity from you as well.
Can I say one more thing before I leave?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Go Bills. Go Bills. Listen,
Now Mark's left. Look what you did. Mark is gone now.
Wait, they're playing tomorrow night, and it's a national broadcast, right? We're the only game on. Look for my Fred Flintstone costumes on TV, and look for me with my big blue hat with white horns. That's all I got to say.
I'm going to look for that. Thanks,
Yes.
Therese.
Yeah.
Thank you, Teresa.
All right. Have fun. You guys take
Have a
care.
wonderful day.
All right.
Bye.
Bye. Look, it's just the four of us. Mark's like hiding. He's muted and dark.
He's getting sharp. He's getting sharp.
I know. Oh.
Yeah, it was on you, G. Scott.
Oh,
I
he's
was
back.
saying to
There he is
definitely
back.
share your positivity, share your thoughts, and all along those lines. I don't know about getting sharp. It's just a sweater and everything along those lines. But if you'll share your message of positivity and how you can be reached as well.
Yeah, thanks for keeping us on track, Mark. We would have just, I don't know what we've been talking about. Yeah, so I think my message of positivity, I really love what Pastor Billy was saying today. And it really is a piece of, the real truth for all of us is that the truth of our life is that we all are struggling. And the truth of our life is that there's all bad stuff that happens to all of us. And if we can only recognize that gives us the space to have compassion and love towards other people, because nobody has the magic key. And the magic key comes down from helping others. And you can find me. That was one of the questions. You can easily find me. You just have to Google my name, G. Scott Graham. If you Google my name, Google has stalked me. And if you search G. Scott Graham, Google even knows my age and where I was born and puts that. I'm not sure how I feel about that. See what John's like rubbing his forehead, like, oh my gosh, really? Yes, John, that's what's going to happen as your book is out there longer and longer. Google's going to stalk you and going to put out where you were born and how old you are. That's what you have to look forward to. When they search John Shen, that's what they're going to see. All right, that's it for me and positivity. Want to move on to John and hear that?
If you'll move on over there to Pastor Billy, and then I'll definitely close out with John and everything. So, Pastor Billy, if you can tell how you can be reached, and definitely any other messages that you've got sharing as well. And like I've said to everybody on the show, I definitely hope to have you all back on in the not too distant future on other shows as well, because I've thoroughly enjoyed the conversation, and y'all are all bringing great insight. So, Pastor Billy, if you'll share how you can be reached and some of the other things that you would like to share in that positivity lane, and also your contacts as well.
Well, let me just first say this was outstanding. This was so much fun, and I enjoy listening, and I just want to share a few things. I got that we need to have a business plan, and there needs to be a life mission. And we need to start a green living, get all that toxic chemical out of our house, open the windows and get some fresh air in. And then I learned that there was a road to New York. So I'm gonna make that one day. And then good priorities. We gotta have good priorities, give back, and read labels. So these are some of the things. Oh, and John, thank you. And we have to have balance in our life. Hallelujah. I got that, John. Okay. And so you can reach me at unitycfnm.org. And I'm also on YouTube, Pastor Billy, Unity CF, New Mexico, NM. At YouTube. I'm also on there. I'm also on Facebook as well. You can reach me there. I'm almost like Scott. I don't have 17 books, but I think if you Google me, I will come up somehow, some way. I do believe that. And so I guess I could show. So this is my latest book here, Living on the Narrow Path. If you can get it at Barnes & Noble. And then my old book that talks about how I was sold as a child, you can get on, I think, Google, on Barnes and Noble and also Amazon. Now, the positive thing I really would like for people to understand and share is that you are responsible for you. Okay, I don't know if that's a good, to me, it's positive, and I really want you to take this and understand you are responsible for you. So someone said we got to continue to do our research. We have to continue to educate ourselves and implement things that will start the joy in your life. Because when you wake up in joy, when you wake up with a peace, when you wake up that morning, it just makes life so much better. So my positive note is find something every day that wakes you up with joy. That would be my positive share. It's something to share. Wake up positive. Wake up, find something to be happy about. I don't care what it is. I got a new pair of socks. I'm gonna be happy about them socks.
No, that makes a lot of sense, Pastor Billy. You forgot one of the most valuable lessons that you were writing notes, because I remembered one of your lessons and all along those spaces, because you said that yes, winning is fun, and I agree that winning can be fun, but that you can also learn a lot and have some success from losing as well. So you mentioned some of the life lessons that you learned from losing, and some of the life lessons that you taught to your kids as well while they were losing, including having fun and the life and all in that space. So definitely we are sometimes living in this game of life, and this game of life needs to have some fun elements as well. So John, if you can share a little bit about your thoughts of positivity and all along those lines, and if I can get that in about 3 or 4 minutes, because like I said, we're getting ready to wrap up.
Sure. I don't have my podcast channel, so the easiest way to reach out to me is probably to add me on LinkedIn. I use LinkedIn a lot. You can certainly, email me to john.shen@usa-rc, R as in Richard, C as in Charlie.com. That's my email. So I love the conversation here, and I think one of the things I would like to just maybe reiterate, if this has been covered, is that a lot of people when they jump into a business opportunity, they see a immediate chance to make some money. There's nothing wrong with that. Oftentimes, that's how people, get things started. But that's not going to make your business successful. There's no way. So the only way to me to make a business successful is to look at your long-term goals and build a business that has what we call sustainability in there. And that's the only way you can make the business successful. You can be a successful entrepreneur at the end. So don't mess up your life simply because you see an opportunity that you could make some quick money here or there. I'm sure there are people getting rich overnight, but don't believe. I don't believe that applies to 99.9% of the people in the world. Just keep that in mind.
No, I definitely agree with you and everything. The one thing that I didn't get to, John, and I'd love to hear your thoughts about it, and this can be maybe a quick minute answer and everything, but I had asked G. Scott and I asked Pastor Billy what they do for fun and all along those lines. So what is the thing that you do for fun outside of the work and all along those lines? So what is your fun activity? Because I've heard some different fun activities, and after you answer that, I'll go out with a commercial about educators and all along those lines. But definitely, what is your fun activity?
Well, I think I love to, spend more time with my friends. Even I don't have a lot of spare time. I can do a better job, I think, between taking care of my family members and maybe enjoying, friendship with a lot of old or new friends. I think whatever I do, even go to a party, maybe a picnic, going to a museum or a cinema. I want to take opportunities to know my friends, and it's I think we're at the age that we don't really want to make so many friends, right? We want to be selective. We want to make sure that we we can certainly have some friends. We can spend some quality time, and that's important to me. So whatever I do, I want to make sure that we don't waste time. We don't we enjoy every single second of that.
Nope, I definitely agree with you. Friendship is very important. And on that note, I'm going to get out with the education spot and all along those lines. But I do hope to see all of y'all back in the near future. But I've thoroughly enjoyed the conversation. I would love to have y'all make a return trip in the not too distant future as well.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
I won't fold, I won't drop until we on top. Only going non-stop. I won't fold, I won't drop until we on top. Only going non-stop.
I want to thank everyone for coming to the 2020 TAF Awards. This was a show like no other, people. This is the Grammys for dignitaries, educators, and support staff around the state of Oklahoma and worldwide. We cannot do this without the support of the people. So we thank you. I thank you for being such a dedicated supporter to this movement for the Teachers Appreciation Foundation. I thank you.